Hey guys, and welcome to this week's wrap. What a week. From Zuma going to jail, to Ramaphosa being exonerated in court today, plus plans to grow weed at the union buildings, it's been a wild week. So, let's dive into your weekly simple news updates brought to you by me, Verashni Pillay, and the Explained Akosa team. First up, our take: we must all be equal before the law. A just society is predicated on the idea that everyone, from a street sweeper to a president, is equal before the law. We know this theoretically, but in practice, South Africans have never seen a truly high-profile politician sentenced to prison time. Until this week, when former President Jacob Zuma was sentenced to 15 months in prison for contempt of court. You'll remember the background. He repeatedly refused to appear before the Zondo Commission to answer for his clearly pivotal role in enabling the plunder of our state's resources. Zuma, by the way, did not even bother showing up to the Concord hearings about not showing up to the Zondo Commission. Talk about a meta not showing up. Now, reading out Tuesday's main judgment, a beautiful piece of writing in its own right, Acting Chief Justice Sisi Kampepe said, "Never before has the judicial process been so threatened." Did we mention that this is the first time a woman is in the role of Chief Justice? Well, Zuma clearly did, because he promptly called her emotional and angry. Yeah, says every man to a woman calling him out. Anyway, the judgment is a win for our civil society and judiciary, of course, but also for the country at large. Less stable democracies would see civil war or authoritarian actions from their ruling parties before such accountability was allowed to occur. So, what happens next? Zuma must report to either the Nkandla or Johannesburg Central Police Station by Monday so that the station commanders of those stations can ensure that he is committed to a correctional facility. If he fails to show up, the Minister of Police and the National Commissioner of Police must ensure he is arrested. Now, will they do that? Well, according to Police Minister Cyril, they will. He has said the police will obey the court rulings and do what is necessary. But what will Zuma do? His daughter, Duduzile Zuma, says he is willing to face his sentence, and she's more of the official spokesperson. His son, Edward, who is part of a handful of more radical supporters, say they will oppose what's happening, but their voices really are in the minority, and there's no way to appeal the sentence, and getting violent probably won't get them very far. Now, experts say Zuma will not be treated like a hardened criminal given his status. I mean, he is very respected by people across the country still, plus the nature of his crime. And he may even be sent to the medical wing of the correctional facility given his age plus the risk of COVID. Now, he would be eligible for parole in less than 4 months, so he's likely to spend less than 150 days actually in prison, but still, seeing him spend any time in overalls and in prison for clearly disobeying the law sends a clear signal, and a welcome one at that. No one is above the law. Plus, when he gets out, he has that decades-long arms deal trial to look forward to. The master of delaying tactics has run out of road. Moving on to the big story, it's the real COVID, so please stand up. The past 15 months of lockdown has been something of a dress rehearsal for Gauteng, we're afraid to tell you. Compared to what we're seeing now, the province's first 2 waves look relatively tame. Now, we told you previously that authorities were doing their best to stop the Delta variant, which originated in India, from reaching South Africa. But it was impossible to contain, and it's now our most dominant variant, driving a deadly third wave. Gauteng's hospitals are under serious pressure. Now, like us, India did not experience the nightmare scenarios that played out early in Italy and New York, with doctors having to choose who lived. Experts wondered what was going on. Was there some sort of natural immunity among Indian and African populations? Some people even linked it to our early childhood TB vaccines. But the Delta variant emerged in India and it wreaked havoc. Fatalities soared, hospitals were overwhelmed, and funeral pyres burned non-stop. People were literally dying outside the doors of hospitals because there wasn't enough care available. Things have suddenly become very real in South Africa with that particular variant now on our shores. But at the same time, we're all really fatigued with the whole COVID business. I know I am. Many of us have been relatively careful and avoided catching the virus, so it's tempting to believe we'll keep being lucky. But don't be fooled. This variant is a whole new ballgame. It is twice as contagious as the original virus. So, on Sunday, President Cyril Ramaphosa had to take us back to lockdown level 4 for the first time since May last year. Now, most thought we'd never be here again, given the effect of restaurant closures and an alcohol ban on the economy. With the restaurants closed and alcohol banned, the economy will be absolutely devastated. But we had little choice. Other provinces are in danger, and experts worry that things are likely to get much worse as the new variant spreads. This isn't unique to South Africa, by the way. Australia has introduced new lockdown measures for the first time thanks to the variant, after also being rather lax about getting its population vaccinated. And since they're much richer than us, they have less of an excuse. China, meanwhile, is setting up giant quarantine centers. The good news, however, is that the variant is not necessarily deadlier than the previous one. The Pfizer and AstraZeneca vaccines have shown great effectiveness against it, while studies are still being conducted on the effectiveness of the J&J vaccine. But remember, all of this is not really that important. What you need to know is that even if a vaccine isn't 100% effective against the new variant, it's better to get the vaccine than not at all. It could well save your life by limiting the severity of the infection. So don't buy into any anti-vaxxer nonsense. And Ramaphosa himself came out pleading with people to say stop spreading misinformation. Remember, it's a crime to do so related to COVID. Plus, if you are 50 and older, you're now eligible to start registering for the vaccine in South Africa from today. Yay! Vaccinations begin on the 15th of July. So one more time, let's say it together. Even if you're exhausted by now, we can do this. Stay at home and stay safe. Moving on to your briefs, green politics for South Africa's Khoisan. The way South Africa generally allows the expression of protest is something special. We love that a group of indigenous people casually setting up camp outside government's most important building for 3 years has barely made headlines. And now, the Khoisan, who have been living there since 2018, have decided to add a greenhouse to their spot on the lush lawns of Pretoria's union buildings and potentially grow weed. You can't make this stuff up. Are they hoping to smoke Ramaphosa out? Ha ha. Honestly, can you imagine this happening outside, say, Germany's Bundestag? Meine Gott! The group's demands include being recognized as South Africa's first nation, their language being made official, being referred to as the Khoisan and not as colored, and possession of their ancestors' land being returned to them. Now, the DA is calling for the group to be removed. Of course it is. But really, they're just a group of people standing in front of the union buildings, asking it to accept them. On to some international or rather regional news. A match has been lit in the Kingdom of Eswatini. The continent's last absolute monarchy, formerly called Swaziland, has this week been rocked by pro-democracy protests. More than 20 people have reportedly been killed by the military and police and dozens detained. King Mswati III has ultimate authority over parliament, cabinet and the judiciary. Plus, he exercises inordinate control in many of the country's biggest companies. Some of his businesses have been set alight. Now, the monarch was initially rumored to have fled to South Africa, seeking safety from the demonstrators, but the Eswatini government quickly denied this, saying he was in fact still in the country. They also released restrictions parading as COVID-19 regulations, including a dusk till dawn curfew, imagine that, being stuck inside all day, and resorting to the tired trick of autocrats everywhere by shutting down the internet. Shame, guys, there's something called VPN redirection services, and they've helped to keep some news coming out of the country. Now, the protests have been fueled by government's failure to protect the economic interests of nearly 1.3 million Mswati. There have been stories of people with nothing to eat. This while King Mswati III and his family flash and flaunt their wealth on social media. 2 of his children even did an Instagram live, literally just laughing at the protesters. If being out of touch was a person, it would be one of those 2. They should have told protesters to eat cake while they were at it. Watch out for that metaphorical guillotine, kids. On to some more international news. Free Britney already. We've told you previously about the trials and tribulations of one Britney Spears. The 90s pop icon fell from grace and has been locked into a bizarre conservatorship for 13 years, giving her father, James, and team full control over her life and finances while leaving her powerless. For years, fans have wondered if she's okay. Her social media posts left many convinced she was pretending or being forced to act the part. Seems they were right. Leaked audio from her court testimony, which focused on her father's role in the conservatorship, reveals in frightening detail how even a powerful celebrity can be exploited. The worst part of the leak is her claim that she has not been allowed to remove a contraceptive IUD and fall pregnant with her boyfriend, which is her wish. This is a possible violation of her constitutional rights. Now, in the audio, Britney says her father loved every moment of her suffering and having control over his powerful daughter. The testimony shocked experts. So, after all that, we're a bit devastated as Britney fans by today's news. The judge has denied Britney's request to have her father removed from the conservatorship, CNN reports, and, to make matters more bizarre, James Spear has asked the court to investigate his daughter's allegations that she was medicated with lithium and made to perform against her will. It's so sad that someone who was part of many other girls' growth hasn't been given a chance to do some growing up of her own on her own terms. Like everyone else, we say it out loud, free Britney. And some really bizarre local news. Did you hear about the two South African brothers who ran away with over, wait for it, 50 billion rand worth of Bitcoin? No, that's not the start of a really complicated joke. So, quick explainer, Bitcoin is a digital form of money that isn't controlled by any central bank or government like normal currencies. You can't physically hold it, but it has real value and can be used to buy things or cash in as normal money. Thanks to its unique blockchain technology, all transactions featuring blockchain are recorded publicly, but it's pretty anonymous. Nobody would know which account number was yours unless you told them. Enter the Kaji brothers, who saw an opportunity. They ran a cryptocurrency investment platform called AfriCrypt from South Africa, trading Bitcoin on behalf of investors. They seem to have rather high returns they seem to rather have achieved rather high rates of returns on their trades, and regulators now suspect it was a Ponzi scheme. Now, in April, just a few months ago, they emailed their investors out of nowhere and told them that the platform had been hacked, and then they promptly vanished with what we think is 50 billion rand worth of Bitcoin. Even their former lawyers say their services have been terminated, so there's no way to get hold of these brothers. Now, former clients say that the two, young as they were, talked a very good game. They clearly must have been very convincing. Another client told MoneyWeb the Kajis were prominent members of Johannesburg's Muslim community and exploited the trust of friends and family. But how did the pair get people to invest 50 billion rands worth of Bitcoin? Well, lawyer Darren Hanekom, acting on behalf of several clients, believes the Kajis were acting on behalf of a much bigger international syndicate. As he put it is very unlikely that they managed to rope in more than 50 billion rand from investors. This was a money laundering operation. Remember, folks, if it's too good to be true, it probably isn't. On to some more local news. While Zuma was licking his wounds after the Concourt's scathing ruling, Ramaphosa was anxiously awaiting the same court's judgment related to his CR17 bank statements. This was the funding used in his campaign to become ANC president ahead of the party's pivotal 2017 election conference at Nasdaq that eventually saw Zuma's faction ousted. Well, Ramaphosa can breathe a sigh of relief. The court has ruled in his favor, saying there was no foul play. That all happened today. Now, this ruling criticized Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhobane's 2019 finding that Ramaphosa had willfully and inadvertently misled Parliament. But I mean, guys, come on, willfully and inadvertently mean entirely opposite things. What was Public Protector Busisiwe thinking? Well, anyway, so she ruled that he had willfully and inadvertently misled Parliament when he responded to a question by then DA leader Mmusi Maimane relating to a 500,000 payment made by dubious former BOSASA CEO Gavin Watson. Now, Ramaphosa, talking on the moment and responding in the moment to Maimane, had said that the money was for consultancy work done by his son, Ndile Ramaphosa. A few days later, he wrote to the Speaker of Parliament correcting himself, saying it was, in fact, a campaign donation. Now, he's been cleared of any dubious dealings. Now, this is another blow for Mkhobane, who has had a number of judgments slamming her work. Her original CR17 report was being used by Ramaphosa's foes in the party to try to oust him. So it's been a pretty good week for old Cupcake, with his enemies on the back foot. He won the fight to get Ace Magashule suspended recently, overruled Gwede Mantashe to release lots more energy generation, and now this. However, pro-democracy pundits have said the ruling is a blow for democracy. The larger issue, they say, is that internal party campaigns should not be treated as private affairs, which is what the court effectively did in its judgment today. They affect public life and deserve interrogation. That's a good point. South Africa has an opaque political funding model that is bad for democracy. The Party Political Funding Bill, which has just been signed, is set to force parties to be more transparent about their fundraising, but this won't apply to leaders within those parties contesting internal party elections like Ramaphosa or John Steenhuisen or Julius Malema, whatever the party, whatever the leader. All right, moving on to our adulting. Tax season is open. It's the adultiest thing ever, but it's time to file your taxes. Tax season is open for individual taxpayers from 1 July until 23rd November. Taxpayers are encouraged to file online. If that's not possible, you can go to South African Revenue Services branch, but by appointment only. Remember, it is COVID, so try to file online. On to some other international news. Every few months, a new report is released or a very important global body issues a dire warning. Climate change is real and we must act now to mitigate its effects. For many of us, though, it remains an abstract concept, a future calamity that might still be held at bay. But this week, as temperatures in part of Canada soared, yes, the wintry land of ice hockey and snow saw record highs and streetcar cables melting across the US border in Portland, Oregon, a sobering reality set in for some. Climate change Climate is already changing, and our warming world has very real human consequences. Extreme heat kills, it wrecks infrastructure, and it is happening in real time in cities around the globe. Here to explain, we like to offer solutions and constructive ideas, but we also know it's crucial to tell it like it is. Read as much as you can about what's happening and about how best to prepare yourself, your family, and your community for a shifting climate. There's no going back, but we can move forward together, try to help each other out, and mitigate future effects. Lastly, rest in peace, Steve Kekana. The legendary South African musician and qualified lawyer and lecturer Steve Kekana passed away. He's known for his hit records like Take Your Love and Keep It and Feel So Strong with PJ Powers. Kekana will be remembered not just for his music, but for his grit. He was blind from the age of 5. Thank you for leaving us with your gift of great music. Well, that's it from us at The Wrap, a product of Explain.coza. Simple news summaries for busy people. Remember to share the love, tell your friends to subscribe at explain.coza/subscribe. For now, goodbye from me.